Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 123 of the Trading Without Borders podcast. In today's episode, we will be diving into the AfCFTA and its connection to regional economic communities with a focus on its industrialization objectives and value chain development. We will explore how the AfCFTA aims to promote industrialization and foster regional value chains through collaborations with the RECs. So stay tuned for an insightful discussion. Today, we will be joined by our distinguished guest, Johansein Rutaihwa, a Senior Program Officer, Industrialization and Competitiveness, Directorate of Industrial Development and Trade, Southern African Development Commission, SADC. Johansein is a seasoned economist with 17 years of experience, currently leading the Industrialization and Competitiveness Unit at the Southern African Development Community. His expertise spans policy development, harmonization, strategic planning, budgeting, report writing, capacity building, evaluation, and driving initiatives to identify strategic gaps and coordinate policy frameworks across SADC member states. It has been instrumental in implementing impactful development programs with a focus on regional economic integration, industrialization, and competitiveness. It was also pivotal in establishing the SADC Business Council and facilitating capacity building initiatives on industrial policy formulation across the region. His professional background includes significant roles in consultancy for international organizations, where he provided insights on trade negotiations such as the AfCFTA and the COMESA SADC EAC tripartite negotiations. Throughout his career, Johansein has built a strong network across Africa and globally, fostering collaborations in the fields of trade, industrialization, and policy development. A prolific author, Johansein's research on sustainable development, trade policy, and industrialization has influenced policy decisions at both national and regional levels, contributing to the approval of various protocols and policies aimed at fostering economic growth and regional integration. He is recognized for his leadership and achievements. He was honored with the Chinese Presidential Award at Wonshu Forum in Beijing, China in 2014. He remains a key figure in advancing Africa's economic agenda, collaborating with stakeholders across academia, government, and the private sector to promote sustainable development and regional prosperity. He holds a PhD in sustainable development and diplomacy from Euclid University, an MSc in international trade policy and trade laws from London University, and a BA in economics from the University of Dar es Salaam. Well, thank you so much, Johansein, for joining us today. So one of the traditions on this podcast is for our guests to greet the audience in their local language. So go ahead and greet us and let us know what it means.
Hello, habari asubuhi means jambo, good morning.
Thank you for that, Johansein. Good morning to you too. So we will start now. Let me move on to the questions. Can you share some insights about your work and experience in African trade and regional economic development?
Thank you very much. As you introduced me, I'm the head of the Industrialization and Competitiveness Unit of the SADC Secretariat. Basically, my role involves around the coordinating and facilitating the implementation of the SADC Industrialization Strategy and Roadmap for 2015-2063. The industrialization strategy is being implemented into three phases. Phase one running from 2015 to 2063. 2015 to 2020. Then the second phase 2021 to 2050. And the third phase is in 2051 to 2063. Yeah, and it's being implemented in four pillars. Pillar number one is in terms of the promotion of industrialization. Pillar number two is in terms of the supporting competitiveness. Pillar number three is regional integration, where the issue of the AfCFTA comes out very clearly. And the last pillar is cross-cutting issues. So in course of coordinating the implementation of this strategy, we are ensuring that is also aligned with our regional indicative development plan for 2020-2030 and our vision 2050. In my daily routine, basically, I do support the member state to ensure that their policies is aligned, and not only industrial policy, but also all the policies that are geared to support the industrialization, like trade policy, agriculture, climate change, infrastructure, energy, to mention just a few. The second aspect is to support them in terms of the capacity building. We understand our member states still they need the capacity to be able really to implement the policy both at national and at regional level. Also, the third aspect is in terms of engagement with the private sector by ensuring that the private sector they are taking part in the implementation. And on this, I championed the establishment of the SADC Business Council. And from the industrial perspective side, we are focusing more on the production. How are we going to improve our production and ensure that we add value that can be able to be traded within the region? And my experience within the region and continent, you find we are still trading more on the raw materials, especially the agro product without or with less value addition. And you also agree with me, or you find that almost 70 to 90% of the export is raw materials, which to me the implication is that it limits the trade within Africa, because you are allowing the raw material to be sent out, like the mineral, the agro product in a raw form, where it's going to be added the value to the final goods in other countries, and with the simple economic concept, any product that added value always attract a higher price than the raw material. So it is taking away our jobs, also taking away our trade within the continent and within the region. Maybe let me stop there. That's in brief my role and what I'm currently doing.
Thank you so much for sharing about your work with us. So we'll move on to the next one. And under Article 5 of the AfCFTA agreement, the AfCFTA agreement shall be governed by the following principle. Under 5B, it says, by the REX free trade areas as building blocks of the AfCFTA. Can you elaborate on the relationship between the AfCFTA and Africa's regional economic communities? How do the REX serve as foundational elements of the AfCFTA framework? Thank you.
The predecessor for the AfCFTA, the African economic integration was largely pursued through the REX, and under African Union, 8 REX are being recognized, which include EAC, COMESA, SADC, ECAS, to mention just a few. And all along, these REX have long been the primary institution framework that promotes regional cooperation and trade. They also laid a very good foundation for the AfCFTA by fostering the deeper regional integration by harmonizing the trade rules and developing the infrastructure and intra-regional trade. But also the other aspect in terms of the institutional linkage, you find AfCFTA is building on the progress that has been made by this REX. For example, many of the REX that I've mentioned, they've already established the free trade area. Some they are already in custom union, like EAC, SACU, and others are already in common market. But this achievement in trade liberalization and policy harmonization also provide a very solid base for the continent-wide, especially AfCFTA, to be able really to achieve its goal. And the African Union has made it very clear that AfCFTA will work with the synergy that arises from the REC to ensure that there's an incremental path towards continental integration. But also the other aspect that we can consider in the role of the RECs is in terms of the provision of the platform for the AfCFTA. The RECs have been designed to be the initial platform for integration by creating a very necessary mechanism for trade, investment, cooperation within specific region of Africa, whether it's West, Central, or East. So essentially, AfCFTA builds on the achievement of the RECs by expanding them to continental level, and this is done through the consolidation of the regional agreement into a single market, which AfCFTA is focusing to bring in the region. But also the other aspect of the support of the RECs to the AfCFTA is in terms of the implementation and coordination. The RECs do play a very critical role in the implementation of the AfCFTA. They do provide the institutional structure and the regional coordination that is required for the AfCFTA success. For example, most of these RECs you'll find, like, let me give an example of SADC, how we are structured. Usually our decision-making organ starts at the senior official level, which involves the permanent secretaries, and then it goes to the sectoral ministry, depending which sector is being presented. After that, it goes to council and then summit for the final decision. And below we have got the secretariat, and this is actually how also the AfCFTA has been structured. Now, given that Africa is vast with the vast and diverse continent of different level of development and capacities, the RECs here can really help to tailor the AfCFTA provision to the regional context, making the agreement more manageable and effective. You find like the SADC. SADC has got 60 member states. Some are island countries and some are mainland. So always the provision of the agreement in terms of the provision or any agreement, it might not be the same. But through these RECs, it's much easier for RECs to coordinate the implementation of the AfCFTA. But also where there's the issue of policy alignment and the harmonization. As per my introduction, I said one of my roles is to ensure that we are supporting member states to ensure that they align their policy with the region and the national level. So AfCFTA at its own, it can't really reach to individual member state to harmonize and align their policy. It's through the RECs who have got the good mechanism to bring together the member state to ensure that they're able to harmonize their policies, which can facilitate the smoother policy alignment at the continental level. The other aspect that I can also discuss in terms of the RECs as support for the AfCFTAs is in terms of the trade liberalization. The AfCFTA agreement allows for a phased approach when it comes to trade liberalization, which is building on the progress that has been made by the RECs. For example, countries that are already part of free trade area like SADC or custom union like EAC or SACU within the RECs are often in a more advanced position to implement the AfCFTA provision. Also, there's the issue of the rules of origin, where AfCFTA includes the provision related to rules of origin, which determine the criteria under which goods can be classified as originating from the AfCFTA member state. So you see the RECs have already established their own rules of origin, and this always serve as a base for harmonization and extending rules at continental level. The last part is in terms of the trade facilitation, where we are trying as a RECs to ensure that we eliminate barriers to trade, simplify custom procedures, and also improve the logistic and transport system within the region. All this can really play a critical role for the AfCFTA to operationalize at continental level.
Thank you so much, Johansein, for giving us for elucidating the roles of the REC in respect of the AfCFTA. You have shared the structure of how the SADC operates. Thank you very much. I think that gives us an insight from the outsiders to see how that works. And you've also expanded on how the AfCFTA is going to build on the achievements of the RECs by expanding their work to continental level, basically sharing the synergy that is existing between the AfCFTA and the RECs. Thank you. So that's going to lead us to our next question. Under Article 3 of the AfCFTA agreement, one of the general objectives is to promote industrial development through diversification and regional value chain development, agricultural development, and food security. During a panel discussion on industrialization in London in 2022, the UN Economic Commission highlighted the expert submissions from that panel discussion that the AfCFTA has the potential to spur Africa's industrialization and deepen regional integration, provided the continent implements supportive policy reforms and fosters trade. So given this context, how can RECs contribute to advancing the AfCFTA's industrialization agenda? Are there any notable examples of successful regional industrialization projects that align with these goals?
All the 8 RECs that have been identified by African Union as contributing to the AfCFTA, they have developed their industrial policy. And now the talk of the global is facilitating value chain, the regional value chain into global value chain. That can be one of the aspects that REC can really contribute in terms of the AfCFTA industrialization. How do they support now the value chain at the region? First is by ensuring that they are fostering cooperation in key sectors. The country like SADC has identified 3 areas for the regional value chain. That is the agro-processing, mineral beneficiation, and pharmaceutical. If you go to EAC, they've identified agro-processing, pharmaceutical, renewable energy, and non-renewable energy. They've identified the textile, they've identified leather as also the key sectors to promote cooperation. You go to West Africa, they've identified the mango, cocoa, and other agro-product as part of the value chain. And when you look at the AfCFTA Secretariat, I've identified the 4 areas that are key sectors for promotion of value chains. That is agro-processing, pharmaceutical, automotive, and transport and logistic. So through facilitation of regional value chain by fostering the cooperation, really this can support the AfCFTA industrialization. But also on the same, ensure the coordination of the infrastructure project that really are supporting development of the value chain. And this, when we speak of the infrastructure, we consider the issue of energy, transport, and digital network. I will give you an example in terms of the infrastructure development support under the value chain. And this is under COMESA. COMESA has developed the Regional Infrastructure Master Plan, which focus on transportation corridors, energy, supply, and ICT infrastructure. This project really helps to reduce the trade barriers and cost, allowing industry to strive across borders and create interconnected supply chain. But also the same at SADC, we have got the gas master plan, which is intended to address the issue of energy in the region. The cost of energy is still very high. So the REC has decided to come up with the gas master plan, which really is going to to ensure that the cost of energy goes down. But on the same also, we have the Regional Infrastructure Master Plan at the one for the COMESA, which is to ensure that all the region is well connected, both the railway, roads-wise, and the water-wise. The other aspect that how the RECs can really advance the AfCFTA industrialization is through the promotion of industrial policy alignment, which I touched earlier. The industrial policy coordination at REC level can help to design and implement regional industrial products that really promote value addition, local content and technology transfer. Also on the same, ensuring that there's a creation of incentive for regional investment, where you find most of our RECs have already designed the investment policy, the investment protocols, and at SADC level, they do exist as a part of implementing or ensuring that their policy is aligned. And once the policy is aligned at the regional level, it's much easier to coordinate at continental level. I can give an example on this on the ECOWAS industrial policy, which has been key instrumental in supporting industrial development in West Africa. The policy really aims to develop the regional industrial base by ensuring that they promote creation of regional value chains, enhancing manufacturing sector, and fostering the technology. Also, SADC Industrialization Strategy and Roadmap 2015-2030, which also being implemented into 4 pillars, identifies the agro-processing, the mineral, and the pharmaceutical at the value chain. The EAC Industrial Policy for 2012-2032 also identified 6 priority value chains that really can make the region to industrialize. All this industrial policy and the harmonization, they're supporting the implementation of AfCFTA industrial policy. But also, we shouldn't forget the issue of capacity building and skills development. Earlier, I highlighted that one of my key roles in my position is to support the member state in terms of the capacity. And this capacity can be in terms of policy design, policy implementation, policy monitoring, and evaluation. Most of the policies at the African continent has been designed by consultants. And we have been trying to do away with that notion by ensuring that we capacitate our own people within the region to be able to, to develop the policy that really fits them. But also, in terms of the skills development, we are saying the RECs are better positioned to promote vocation training and the STEM education, which can advocate for science, technology, and engineering, mathematics education, which are very crucial for the modern industrial sector. For example, in Southern African Development Community, SADC, we have developed the Skill Training Initiative, which aims at improving the workforce to meet the demands in the emerging industry. Program is really focusing more on skills in key sectors such as energy, mining, and agro business. And this program really aligns well with the AfCFTA goals of increasing local production and manufacturing capacity. But the other aspect how the RECs can support the industrial policy at the AfCFTA is through the development and the implementation of regional industrial projects. We are saying now the world is moving to regional clusters. RECs are better encouraged to synergy between different companies and industry, increasing the productivity and innovation by clustering them according to their sector. Though the clustering in the southern region is still at infant stage, but we are moving to ensure that we are able to cluster. We have few countries like South Africa, Mauritius, Zimbabwe, and Zambia who have started to ensure that they've got a clustering of these sectors so that we can benefit from this SME that we have. But also on the same, encouragement of public-private partnership, which can really facilitate the availability of funding and implementation of industrial projects. The only challenge that as a RECs we are facing is to be able to come up with the industrial project. You agree with me that most of these industrial projects have to come from the private sector. And whatever private sector sees that these projects are viable, they will go for it. So as a REC, not only SADC, but also other 8 regs, that we are able to come up with an industrial project, it will become much easier for the AfCFTA to escalate this project at continental level. And we see now, like, the 4 sectors that AfCFTA has identified: the agro, the pharmaceutical, the automotive, and the transport and logistics, are in line with the priorities of all these regs. It might not all of the 4 that they are sitting with one reg, but at least you find like agro is cutting across all the 8 regs. Looking the transport is cutting across all the regs. Pharmaceutical is cutting across all the regs. It's only automotive which is sitting with a few regs. But with now really regional project, AfCFTA can be in a better position really to run around with those projects and get the fund to be able to have the impact at the regional level. Another example on the same, on this where we're talking of the industrial project, I can give the example of Comesa Textile in the apparel industry, where Comesa has really put effort to develop the textile and apparel industry in East and Southern Africa, which is aiming really to build a sustainable and competitive regional industry. And also on this, we are working as a tripartite, COMESA, EAC, and SADC, because we all have identified textile and apparel as one of the priority, without forgetting the leather, which we have got really high demand or potential of changing the global setup. The last aspect that I wish to touch on is on harmonization of trade and custom procedures, which I had earlier indicated in terms of the trade facilitation, ensuring that we are able to remove the non-tariff barriers and simplify the tariffs that are being charged at the REX level. And a good example can be given to East African Community, which has established the single custom territory by moving to custom union. And I indicated earlier that they've got 3 bands: 0 for raw materials, 10 for intermediate goods, and 25 for the final goods. All this is to encourage industrialization and value addition which within the region. But the last point that let me bring that REX can bring to the industrialization at the AfCFTA level is the green industrialization. We are saying now we want to go green, and this, how can it be done? Is by promoting the use of clean energy, resource efficiency, technology, and sustainable production practice. And on this example can to like ECOWAS Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency, which is supported by UNIDO. Also at SADC level, we have the same SADC Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficient SACRE, which is also supported by UNIDO and based in Namibia.
Hey, thank you so much for highlighting the roles of the REC, how they have been supporting the implementation of the AfCFTA in respect of capacity building and policy design, implementation and monitoring. And also, I like the fact that you also mentioned the green industrialization work also ongoing. And you also mentioned the 4 areas for industrialization in respect of focus of the AfCFTA, that's agro processing, pharmaceuticals, automotive, transport, and logistics. So this is going to move us to the next. So yes, we have talked about all of this. Now we are going to look at the other side of it, the challenges, the barriers. And looking at that, we have according to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the OECD, the RECs have in recent years defined roadmaps for specific regional value chains, leveraging regional comparative advantages. For example, just like you mentioned earlier, the Southern African Development Committee, the SADC, the Regional Industrialization Roadmap for 2050 to 2063 aims to develop 6 value chains: agro-processing, minerals, mining, pharmaceutical, consumer goods, capital goods, and services. Since 2014, the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, and the West African Economic and Monetary Union, WEMO, have implemented the West Africa Competitiveness Program, a 6-year plan supporting 8 value chains, including cassava, textiles, garments, mango, ICT, onion, pineapples, hides, leather, at both national and regional levels. So, despite these initiatives, most African economies have struggled to expand their participation in regional value chains, and many initiatives have fallen short of their expected outcomes. That is according to OECD. So, what do you, being somebody that is within that space, what do you see as the key barriers to effective value chain integration across RECs? Additionally, what mechanisms can state parties under the AfCFTA implement to address and overcome these challenges?
To start, one, which is very critical, and I'd already mentioned it, is non-tariff barriers, NTB. And on this, we discuss two issues. One, within the non-tariff barriers, we have the inconsistent custom procedures. You find in this member state, there's a variation when it comes to custom procedures and documentation requirement. While tariffs really are being reduced under AfCFTA, but custom procedures often remain complex and very inconsistent and time-consuming, leading to the delays and increases transaction cost. I can give you an example. My own experience when I'm driving from Botswana to my home country, Tanzania. When you reach Kazungura border, which is the border between Zambia and Botswana, the side of Botswana, they're very efficient. They're very quick. You don't even take more than 10 minutes. You have been cleared. You are good to go. But the side of Zambia, you can take even 3 hours on the same document that have been cleared by the other side. Now the question is, what are you trying to check while I'm on transit? I'm not even going to stay in Zambia. I'm just on transit to my own home country. I would have expected maybe my home country are the ones who really are going to scrutinize this document, say no, because this is the last destination. So the procedures of the custom are really very inconsistent and very frustrating. Now, me as an individual, you try to imagine a truck driver or a person who is doing the business, coming with the goods and services, trying to cross the border. Some, they spend even a week at the border because of these inconsistent custom procedures. You arrive at the border, you'll be told we need this paper. But the other side, they say, no, this paper is no longer a requirement. They are even violating the SADC requirement when it comes to custom procedures of a single window, where we said we have like electronic rules of origin, e-certificate. But the other aspect on the same is technical barriers to trade, which is to deal with the standards, regulation, and certification of products between different REC, even at member state level. You find a certain product manufactured in Zambia is being accepted by the other member state, except South Africa. And yet they're all in the same regs, they're all under SADC. So the question is why these standards and regulation differ from one member state to another while we're all in the same reg. So in totality, the non-tariff barriers really discourage the value chain within the region. The second aspect is in terms of the infrastructure development within the region. I would agree that really transport network within the RECs or within Africa is still a nightmare, and Africans will really suffer from the fragmented transport network, inefficient port system, and poor road as well as rail infrastructure, which hinders smooth flow of goods and services across the border. And this really makes very difficult to create a seamless regional value chain that rely on efficient movement of raw, intermediate, and finished product. And an example can be given, like assume the leather value chains where we're saying Botswana, Namibia, Zimbabwe have got abundant raw hides and steel. And the Tanzania, they've got a good tannery where they can be able to process these raw hides and skin to finished goods. But now transporting these raw hides and skin to Tanzania, it become a nightmare because of the poor transportation network within the region. But on the same, the issue of energy, the cost of energy is still very high. It's not accessible, it's not reliable, and it's not affordable. and where is all the that is accessible, reliable, but it can be affordable, or it might not be really be able to meet the demand of the industrialization in the region. So really inadequate energy infrastructure within the regs really limits the value chain development. The other challenge that I can think of is in terms of the fragmented industrial policies and the regulatory framework. Most of our policies within the member state are not harmonized, and we are saying it's not only industrial, because for industry to be able to operate, it needs support of other sectors. Say a policy like environmental policy, climate change, agriculture, infrastructure, energy. And if these policies are not talking to industry, really supporting the value chain, it might not be very easy. And I can give an example where I find the Minister of Industry in member state will allow the private sector to set a company. Then the Minister for Environmental comes in and say, no, you are polluting the environment. We can't allow you to set the industry here. So all this kind of lack of harmonization of policy really makes it difficult to establish a very cohesive regional industrial policy strategy and the value chain development. Also, the regulatory, there are very inconsistent within the member states themselves, including the issue of to do with intellectual property rights, labor laws, and the environmental standard that I've already mentioned. The other aspect also to consider as a barrier to development of value chain is in terms of the access to finance and investment. Really, they are very limited, if not adequate, financial for industrial development and infrastructure within the African countries, and not only within the regs I'm referring. And this is because there's a lack of coordinated financial instrument that could really support cross-border investment and industrial projects that really are that can complement the implementation of value chain development. But the other aspect that really limit the value chain development within the region is in terms of high risk perception. Always the government is not the one who invests in the value chain. The government always provide the environment for private sector to be able to come in and operate. And it's private sector who are operating in value chain. But the perception of many investors in the Africa industrial landscape is termed as a high risk due to political instability, lack of legal protection of investors, and weak institution. We don't have really institution that really can speak on behalf of the investors. So one is really not sure of the investment that they want to put. And this really perception deters the investment in the regional value chain and industrial project that could really help integrate the value chain in the global. The others is in terms of the skills and gaps. As much as we're saying that we have got quite a number of graduates from the university that really can operate. But really, to me, this is not really the skill that we want to support us. The best approach could be in investing in the education where people really need to the organization. So you find the skills there that we have in key industrial sectors, manufacturing, energy, technology, really they are not there, and these are the ones which are required to support the value chain. And some other sectors within the identified value chain, like the automotive, requires a very specialized skills, which most of us in the regional member state we are still lacking. But also the capacity gaps within the government institution.
Okay.
You find most of the regional and national institutions have got they're lacking the capacity to enforce value chain integration within their responsible institution. And the last one is in terms of the political and institution fragmentation. we still and lack of political will, which is emanating from the fact that we still have the inward-looking policy. When we speak of the value chain, every politician will be looking like, okay, if I support value chains because it's a kind of a chain that you won't be doing everything by yourself, you need to allow others also to do other part to segmentation of the value chain based on their competence. For politicians, they look at it like, okay, I'll be exporting the employment for my people. I'll be exporting the the income. So next, after 5 years, I won't really be able to get the vote. So always they'll be trying to find a way of not supporting the value chain due to the fact that, okay, of the two factors that I've already mentioned. Now,
Thank
how
you.
to really
Johnson?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I was just going to say thank you for sharing that. You've really gone deep, and the fact that you had mentioned about inconsistent custom procedures, really, which I agree that we are removing tariffs, but our custom procedures are it's really difficult between the borders and all of that. That needs to be looked into. I know you wanted to share something else, but I guess you'll share that with the next. I hope it goes with the next question that I will be asking you. And you also mentioned, you've highlighted the fragmented industrial policies and how state parties need to harmonize for all of this to work, and political will. I guess maybe we just need to also continue in your capacity building initiatives, more like educating, advocacy, maybe politicians, for them to really see all of the advantages and what the benefits are in trying to ensure that we get things moving, we get our continent, we get the REX to support the AfCFTA, how it's going to benefit us all. So I guess that's would I just have to continue with that, which is also part of what this podcast is doing, trying to highlight the benefits, helping us to see the advantages and also to highlight the challenges so that the respective stakeholders can also address some of these issues. And you have really, really delved deep today to point out areas that need to be addressed. And thank you. So I would move into another question. The African Development Bank Group, the AFDB, in its 10-year strategy 2024 to 2033, highlights the focus of its I5 priorities. So in the report, it has I5 priorities that the bank intends to focus on. It's with number one, light up and power Africa. There's feed Africa, industrialize Africa, integrate Africa, and improve the quality of life for the people of Africa. So under industrialize Africa, because our focus is on industrialization here, under the priority, the ambition by 2033 is that industrialization will be firmly underway across all African regions. Most African countries will be experiencing structural economic change, that is, a significant shift in labor away from smallholder agriculture and the informal sector towards modern industries. African governments will be supporting the transition through industrial policy, investment promotion, and targeted investment in infrastructure and services. African manufacturing firms will be competing with importers to meet the growing demands of African cities and participating in international value chains. So I love this. Given this context, what role does the AfCFTA play in creating and enhancing regional value chains? Can you provide examples of sectors where this transformation is already occurring or where significant potential exists? I know you have mentioned some in the course of your discussion, in the course of our discussion today, but I'll just let you go on and just share some additional information with us. Thank you.
Yeah, in terms of how the AfCFTA can enhance the regional value chain, I've already mentioned them, and I wouldn't want to discuss further, but I will really dwell more on the sectors that we could also consider for transformation. But in terms of how the AfCFTA can really enhance the regional value chain, we can consider the issue of elimination of the tariff and trade barriers, the harmonization of trade rules and the standard, the TBD that I've already mentioned, enhancement of investment flows by ensuring that really the high risk that is scared the investment away from investing in the value chains, we get their trust. The issue of the infrastructure, the infrastructure network, both roads, water, and airways, need also to be addressed for really to be able to venture in the value chain. Also, promotion of the industrialization and value chains by ensuring that our policies and strategies do encourage the value addition that should be made within the continent. Now, going to the sectors which I have not really discussed in details, and on this one I will focus more on the sector that have already been identified at AfCFTA and at the REX level. But the bottom point for all these sectors that we are saying, we should be able to identify the sector that we are able to meet the demand locally. We shouldn't identify the sector that we depend more on the raw materials from outside. We should be able to get the raw materials, add the value within the continent, and we have the enough market or appropriate market to be able to purchase our goods. And on this one, I'll start with the agriculture and agribusiness, or the agro processing as we are used to call it. Agriculture is one of the most significant sectors for value chain development under AfCFTA and at the REC level. The agreement do facilitate the movement of agriculture product, processed foods and input across border. So the potential for agriculture, we have the potential of developing the value chain. For instance, East Africa, there's coffee. In West Africa, there's cocoa. All this, they are capable of really providing jobs to our people, and also provide the income to our people by ensuring that we, instead of exporting the raw materials, we are able to add the value within the region and get the chocolate, get the coffee-based beverage at the continental level. And I can give an example like Tanzania and Kenya, horticulture, where these two countries really, the horticulture processing product is growing, and both countries are benefiting from AfCFTA tariff reduction, as Kenya's companies now have started operating under GTI, is it GTI of the AfCFTA. In terms of the other sectors, in terms of textile and apparel, we have got the potential of this, because we have got abundant cotton that is being grown within Africa. And I understand, like EAC, to promote this, they said, no, we are banning the importation of the second-hand clothes, so that we are able to promote our regional value addition from our sectors by employing our people and ensuring that our sectors really is growing. And on this, the example on that, we have a slogan where buy Africa, promote Africa. And countries like Ethiopia, I think Kenya as well, are really increasingly becoming production hubs of the textile and garment manufacturing. And also they're taking advantage of the AGOA. AGOA is providing an opportunity for the African to be able to export duty-free, tax-free to US market on the textile. And in EAC region, Lesotho has been doing quite well on that. The other sector that we can consider as a continent is in terms of the automotive manufacturing, where we are saying the countries like Morocco, South Africa, Tunisia, they are showing us the lead, and we have got the potential to develop a very competitive automotive industry through the integration of market and the establishment of the regional production facilities. You will see, like a country like Kenya, I think they've almost now banned the importation of the cars, which is has got 7 years, many lasting after 7 years. South Africa doesn't allow at all the importation of the second-hand clothes. So we have that potential for ensuring that we are able to stop the importation of the second-hand automotive, and be able to buy within our continent. The other sector, which also it has not been mentioned at the African continental, but I understand in ESG they have taken a liberty to prioritize it, is in terms of energy and renewable energy. All this value chain or the industrialization we are talking won't be very successful if we are unable to have a very vibrant energy sector with less cost. This will only be able, to support the potential of regional value chain if we are able to utilize the renewable energy space that we have. You visit a country like Botswana, Namibia, which have got really enough sun that can be really saved under the solar panel and then be transformed to be set in the national grid. This can really support the value chain development. So it's a role of the AfCFTA to ensure that they're able to support the cross-border energy trade, including the generation and transmission of renewable energy like solar, wind, and hydroelectric. The other sector I can think of, or maybe another example I can give is in terms of the hydroelectric. Like we have the Grand Inga Dam project, which is being developed in Democratic Republic of Congo and supported by the SADC. And we are saying once this kind of project is completed, really generate a significant electricity that would be distributed across the Southern African region, supplying energy for industries and homes in countries such like South Africa, Zambia, Namibia, and Tanzania. So this AfCFTA can also champion in collaboration with the REGs. The last one is in terms of the pharmaceutical, which is also the key sector that have already been identified at African continental level. While we are saying Africa depends on import pharmaceutical, there's really a significant potential for continent to develop local production capacities for medicine and medical devices within the regional value chain. For example, during COVID, the African Union really pushed for the vaccine, for the COVID-19 vaccine manufacturing facility in Africa, and this is where now we are saying also AfCFTA need to continue pushing for that by ensuring that they are working very close on that, and not on African Union pushing for that, but also all the REGs at SADC through the support from Germany. We started supporting the manufacturing who were able to manufacture the COVID-19 vaccination. But the only challenge is that the cost of production was still very high, so people could still continue importing this vaccination from India and the other countries instead of buying it directly from the region. But also the other challenge that needed to be addressed is the WHO pre-qualifications, where for one to be able really to operate, need to be certified by WHO. Without that, no one really would be able to buy from you. But on this, some of these challenges can be addressed through the pool procurement, where as a RECA continent we come together and we nominate one member state who can be doing the pool procurement on our behalf. And this Kenya has worked in SADC region, where Tanzania has been identified as a country that where the procurement is facility has to be set, and the country will be negotiating on behalf of other member states, and then the drugs and medicine are being distributed directly to the member state. So this one gives really negotiation power and bargaining power, to member states to when they negotiate with the companies. Maybe the last is in terms of the ICT and digital economy, which this is more of the cross-cutting, can't stand alone as a sector, need to be really cutting across all the sector that I've already mentioned, or that have already been really identified at continental level and at REC level. We are saying there's a really huge potential for African technology to ensure, especially in the areas of such as mobile payment, fintech, e-commerce, and software development. You will see like the development that was brought by M-Pesa, the mobile money payment in Kenya. Now it has moved across. Now it's in Tanzania, Lesotho, and the other West African countries. People are no longer really need to have the bank account for them to save or send the money to their dear ones. Everything is now everyone. What you need to have is just to have the SIM card and be able to make the payment. So it has made really life much easier. And for the business community, this is what they are expecting. We want the cost of really sending the money or making the payment to be reduced. Like one is trading with West Africa. We don't need to start going to Western Union money or MoneyGram. One should be able to do everything from his phone. I'm able to send the payment to someone who is in Nigeria. I'm able to send the payment to someone who is in Cote d'Ivoire through my mobile payment without having to go all this hassle of going to the bank, asking for my ID and everything. I think that's all in terms of the sector that can be.
Thank you so much, Johansein. Really, really appreciate it. You've shared so much. So I know you mentioned your own last of the last. So I am going to now then ask you the last of the last question, which is, do you have any additional policy recommendations for policymakers? I know you've shared some, so maybe you just have some that you were not able to mention, and that will wrap up the questions for today. Thank you.
Just a recommendation, right? Yeah, maybe last recommendation that I would really
Sorry, it can be policy interventions that you think they can do in respect of policy interventions in respect of industrialization and value chain development objectives of the AfCFTA. How can they, what is critical for the achievement? You had mentioned some earlier, so maybe you have additional ones that you also want to share before we wrap up.
Yeah, I've got two actually, which I think I need to share. One is in terms of the investment in research and development. As far as Africa is concerned, our share on research and development is still very minimal, less than 1% of the GDP. And we are saying, for us really to be able to, to promote industrialization, our R&D should be at least 1% of the GDP. Now, if you compare with the Asian countries, you find 60% of their GDP goes to research and development. So obviously, with such kind of countries, you won't be able really to compete with them because they're ahead of innovation, they're ahead of technology, because they're really investing on that. So as the African, we need really to ensure that our member states are encouraged to put appropriate budget, the enough ratio of their GDP to go on research and development. But the last is in terms of the private sector. All these good initiatives we are putting forward, we from the public service will never implement them. Our role is to create a good enabling environment. By ensuring that we have policy on the ground, we have rules and regulation, we have good institutions that are able really to support. It's the private sector who are operating. It's the private sector who are facing all these challenges I'm mentioning. The issue of custom procedures, the issue of infrastructure, the issue of energy, the issue of ICT. Without having a good platform, a continental platform to bring together the private sector, at least even having the quarterly meeting with the private sector after every 3 months to understand their critical issues and have the roadmap, how are we going to resolve their issues and be reporting back. The AfCFTA will not succeed. So the best approach, and not only this private sector that we are hearing, we need to have the framework how we are getting the private sector representation. In every rec, I do understand I've got the private sector representation or the councils. Like ESCs, I've got East African Business Council. SADC, I've got SADC Business Council. COMESA, I've got COMESA Business Council. I understand it's the same to West Africa. We need to bring bring together all these business councils from the level to come together and nominate their platform at continental level to be representing their ideas and their concern. And not only an individual who comes, who never even communicate what is being transpired, and we don't even know who does or she or he represent, because this REC Business Council, they don't even recognize those people. So through coming out with a proper framework of engaging the private sector, AfCFTA will be very successful.
Thank you so much, Johansein. Thank you for emphasizing the importance of research and development and private sector engagement. I think that is very key. And thank you so much for really highlighting and going deep into all of this today. I really want to appreciate you for joining us. Johansein has been really gracious. We had network challenges in the beginning, and it was a whole lot trying to resolve it, getting alternative coming back on the alternative provider, and he actually waited through. Thank you so much for joining us and helping to share this. And for our listeners, even the new joiners,
it's my pleasure.
It's really what's what the podcast is about. Trying, let's advocate, let's bring people on board to come and speak. What are the issues? What are the benefits? What are the areas that need to be identified? Sometimes, I remember you mentioned now why the public sector would have to engage the private sector to really understand the issues. That is why we have this platform, one of this platform, on others existing, to really help everyone to understand, okay, what are the roles? What is everyone's pain points? How do we address it? How can we all work together to ensure that the AfCFTA is successful, that we all enjoy the benefit, we all help our continent to grow. So once again, I'm going to say thank you to Johansein for sharing with us today and for joining me today. And thank you everyone for listening. Okay, and until the next episode, bye-bye.